Welcome to Lighten Your Load, the podcast for busy professionals, where we explore how a deeper understanding of how life really works can help remove the weight of excessive thinking, allowing you to live with less stress, more clarity, and greater resilience. Hello, I'm Peter Field, and welcome to episode 2 of the podcast Lighten Your Load. And today we're going to explore a question that affects every single human being. Where do our feelings come from? Now, why might that be helpful to understand? Well, it's no exaggeration to say that one of the biggest challenges many of us face in life today is how to deal with our difficult, painful feelings, whether it's stress, anxiety, fear, guilt, shame. Because we know that if those feelings become intense or long-lasting, they can impact every area of our lives. And so it's a very practical question to consider, because whatever you think is the cause of your painful feelings is where you're going to look to try and solve them. Now, it's probably true that if you ask most people the question, where do you think your feelings come from? Most, if not all of them, will say their feelings are caused by life itself, by circumstances, by situations, by other people. We say things like, I'm stressed because of work, or I'm anxious because of my finances, or I'm upset because of how that person treated me. And this makes sense because it really looks like there's a direct link between our circumstances and the way we feel. Even everyday language such as, he makes me so mad, or this traffic is driving me crazy, or I feel better when it stops raining, reinforces this belief. But if feelings were truly created by circumstances, then everyone would feel the same way in the same situation. And they don't. One person loses a job and feels devastated. Another feels relieved. One person loves speaking in public. Another feels terrified. One person enjoys solitude. Another feels lonely. It's the same situation, but a completely different experience. And have you noticed how even your own feelings about a situation can change, even though the situation remains the same? For example, have you ever noticed how a problem can feel overwhelming late at night, but somehow more manageable the following morning? So if your feelings are not coming directly from circumstances, where are they coming from? Well, in 1973, Scottish mystic Sydney Banks experienced a profound spiritual awakening in which he uncovered 3 universal principles behind the human psychological experience. And what he realised was revolutionary in its simplicity. He realised that human beings are not living in the feeling of their circumstances, they're living in the feeling of their thinking. And although this may not sound like anything new, it's revolutionary. Because he was not talking about positive thinking, or something like reframing a problem to think differently. He was pointing to something much deeper. He was saying that any and every feeling you have is 100% created by your thoughts in that moment, and no other contributing factors are involved. And this is why your feelings can change even when your circumstances remain the same. And it's why 2 people can have a completely different experience in the same situation. Because the experience is not coming from life directly, it's being created through thought. And this is incredibly hopeful, because if our feelings were truly being caused by external circumstances, then in order to feel consistently okay, we'd need to control everything and everyone in the outside world. And we know that's not possible. But when we begin to see that our experience is being created from within, a completely new possibility opens up. We begin to realise that peace of mind is not dependent on controlling life perfectly, but with understanding the nature of our own experience. Here's another way to look at it. Imagine you're wearing tinted glasses without realising it. If the lenses were blue, the whole world would look blue, and you would instantly assume that's reality. Well, thought works in a similar way. When your thinking is fearful, the world can look threatening. When your thinking is insecure, life can feel personal and heavy. And when your thinking is calm and clear, life often looks more manageable and hopeful. But the feeling you're experiencing is not proving reality, it's simply revealing your state of mind, or the quality of your thinking in the moment. And this is something we can all begin to notice in our lives, that when our thinking changes, our feelings and experience of life automatically change too. And this is why David Bohm, considered by many to be the father in quantum physics, commented, "Thought creates our world and then says I didn't do it." Human beings experience their thinking so vividly that we mistake it for reality itself. And because we don't realise thoughts creating the experience, we spend our lives trying to fix the outside world in order to change how we feel inside. Understanding the inseparable nature of thought and feeling may not seem like a big deal, but the implications are huge. If you go to a movie, you can experience the full range of emotions. You can laugh, you can cry, you can get scared, you can get upset, but you don't mind what feelings you have because you know it's just a movie and you know how movies work. Similarly, when you understand the one-to-one relationship between your thoughts and your feelings, you go through your thoughts and feelings more gracefully and more quickly. You know your feelings are just reflecting the quality of your thinking in the moment, and as your thinking changes, your feelings will change too. When you see that your feelings are coming 100% from thought in the moment, you also relate to them differently. Instead of seeing anxiety, anger, stress, sadness as enemies, you start to see them more as feedback or signals. Low feelings indicate fearful, pressured or confused thinking. High feelings indicate your mood has become quieter, clearer, less cluttered. And this is one of the most hopeful parts of this understanding, because it means that difficult feelings are not permanent. And the more deeply you're able to see this for yourself, the less frightened you become by your own thoughts and feelings. As Sydney Banks himself stated, if the only thing people learned was not to be afraid of their experience, that alone would change the world. Because you realise, I don't need to fight every feeling. I don't need to believe every thought. And as the mind begins to settle, clarity, perspective, wisdom, common sense naturally return. Because clarity is natural when the mind becomes less caught up in fearful thinking. Now, I'm not saying that the circumstances we face in life are not real. Of course they are. People experience some horrendous challenges. But the principles uncovered by Sydney Banks point to the fact that our experience of those challenging events is always being created from within, through thought. And this changes everything, because instead of living as though life is continually happening to you, and there's nothing you can do about it, you begin to see that your experience is much more fluid, flexible, changeable, because it's inseparably linked to the continual movement of thought. And this naturally leads us into the next episode, because once we begin to realise that it is thought and not circumstances that's creating our experience of life, a deeper question emerges. What exactly is thought? Is it simply our personal thinking? Or is there something deeper operating behind the scenes? And that's exactly what we're going to begin exploring in the next episode, as we look more deeply into one of the universal principles uncovered by Sydney Banks, and that's the principle of thought. So I do hope you'll join me for the next episode. And in the meantime, thanks very much for listening to episode 2 of Lighten Your Load, and I look forward to talking with you again soon. Thank you for listening to Lighten Your Load. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to the show, and feel free to connect with me on Instagram to learn more about how you can remove the weight of excessive thinking off your mind, so you can live with less stress, more clarity and greater resilience. You can also download part 1 of my book, Lighten Your Load, for free, using the link in the show notes. Thank you.